am Rachel McLeod. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I want to ask you the question, are you avoiding yourself or your symptoms of anxiety? And so that's really what I want to ask today. I want to ask you that, and I want to have a real talk about that. And I want you to go inside and answer this question. But before we do that, and you might not even have to get inside to be able to ask that question. But and I kind of reflect back to my own times when I was in the midst and heart of my anxiety disorder, and I don't know if I could have given you an answer. Because I just need to stay the heck out of that, right? So, but anyway, let's take a dive here and talk about this, because if you've got symptoms of anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, these are really painful, and the problem lies in your mind, right? It lies within you, and it reflects outside of you, and it activates outside of you. And one of the things we do is we really, hey, on Sandy or Sandy. Anyway, but it's really painful to have one of these anxiety disorders, and it's really hard because you don't know where the problem is really coming from, and we can really get in these circles of avoidance, and avoidance can be one of our best strategies for staying alive and surviving and being able to show up to work and do all of the things that we need to do, and by just avoiding, and that's really a big deal, right? But I want to ask you, what are you really avoiding, and what all are you avoiding when you avoid? And I'm going to write something else down we're going to talk about. Okay, so I'm loading up here for you all. Okay, so this is really the question, and I'm going to dive in here. And these are some symptoms that let you know that you are in a pattern of avoiding. And one of these things is really just looking after everybody else. Like, you're the strong one, you're the one who's stepping in to help everybody else, you're the one who's saving everybody, you're the one who's doing those things. If you're doing that, chances are you're running from yourself, or you're running from your symptoms. Likely also that your symptoms could be making you do this. I find that to be usually the case, but that's not what this talk is about. So we're talking about, are you avoiding your symptoms or yourself? And so and looking after everybody else is a wonderful way to never look at yourself. And as a matter of fact, so many people are saying so many great things about you that you can just live and feed off of that and not ever really check in with yourself how you're doing, because you'll use that as your feedback. But what happens with that is that, I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet. Let's keep talking. Okay. I want to just go to the beans, right? But let's stay up here. Another way to find out that you are avoiding your symptoms of anxiety or yourself is that you're volunteering a lot. And somebody says, hey, I need somebody to do this. And you're like, it's me. It's me. I'm going to do that. And so you might find that you're volunteering for 10 projects, and like, you're like the volunteer, and they already are starting to say, oh, just ask them. They'll do it. And this is a classic sign that you're avoiding something, that you're avoiding your life. But it's really a tricky one, because it looks like you're just fabulous. And if you are high functioning enough, you can really make it look like you're doing really great on the inside, while on the outside, but on the inside, it's really painful, or a mess in there, or tangling, or that feeling of once you get going in there, you're not coming out, and you don't know how you're going to come out. And that can be a lot of the things that we're running from. And if we stay busy, then what happens is that our brain can't go into the function that actually creates healing, but also which creates the symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, when it's trying to heal something and it can't get it to come through. And so if we just stay busy, that part can't do it. Now the stuff will pop through, because it's still, your brain is very creative, and it really wants to do that work. And it's also making associations, right? So no matter where you go, your inner world is projecting out your issues, or interpreting this to mean that, and and it's really a mess, right? Because things outside you can trigger you too. But we tend to really overdo the areas where we're okay, and where we can function and coast, because the other stuff, we're getting our butts kicked, and we're just not okay there. So So volunteering can be a really sneaky way to avoid yourself, avoid your symptoms, and still look productive, because we have a need to be productive. We have a need to really accomplish things and feel successful. And if we can't be successful with our anxiety symptoms or depression or traumatic stress, and we can't be successful with ourselves, then we still have a need to be successful, and we're going to go after it. And so you need that puzzle put together, I'm putting that puzzle together. You need me to build that fence, I'll build that fence. You need me to bring cupcakes, I'm bringing that cupcakes. Ooh, I did it. And I want to honor that. Like, I am not making fun of that at all. It's a human need. We need to be able to function well. We need appreciation, and we need to be successful. And if we can't do that there, we still need it. But it really, uh, you know, when we're avoiding, right? And we're talking about, if you're procrastinating, that's avoidance, right? You know that. If you're trying to get a task done and you keep getting distracted, and then you come back and get there, that can really look like symptoms of ADHD, but really it can be part of the avoidance piece. Not that it can't not, I mean, it can absolutely be ADHD as well. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that it could be symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress that is keeping you distracted. Um, and so we can have so many ways of avoiding our symptoms and ourself. But this is really what happens, is that when we're avoiding our symptoms, or when we're avoiding ourself, we're also avoiding healing. Because the brains can absolutely resolve every one of the symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. They're good at that. But if you're going to avoid it, that works too. You can really be very incredibly successful in avoiding your symptoms and avoiding yourself. And really, what happens with symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress is, I kind of look at it like this: like, yourself is here and your symptoms are here, right? And life is coming at you from out here, and it has to kind of go through the anxiety, depression, traumatic stress stuff to really come in here for you to live from yourself and go, right? But a lot of times, all this symptoms are here, and then when life comes, it gets caught up in this, and we have to bounce it back out. So really, what happens is, to avoid our anxiety, we're also avoiding ourself, our authentic self, our most powerful self, our true self, our light, right? All of the things you want to talk about, that's the stuff that we're not being able to connect to and connect from. This is where life happens. We talk about living from your heart, living from, yourself. That's stuff that's so important to us as humans. And if you've got anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, that's this stuff. And as you're avoiding that, you're not getting the rest of it either. And what happens is that you don't resolve these symptoms. You don't resolve the problems that are there, because you keep avoiding the anxiety. Because the anxiety and depression and traumatic stress can be such a big monster that you just don't want to go there, right? Because once you go into anxiety mode, you're talking about racing heart, feeling like you're suffocating, feeling like you can't get enough breath, your chest is tight, your stomach is dropped out, you feel like there's a ton of weights on you, your shoulders are tight, your body's in agony, maybe your hands are going numb, you're feeling dizzy, right? It doesn't stop. Like, once you go into anxiety mode, your whole body goes under assault. It goes into a whole different mode. You're not even in the mode of relaxation and thinking, and right there. When you go into survival mode, your whole body gets into it. And it causes so many symptoms, and it shuts down your thinking center, and you can't think. Nobody wants to be there. And if you don't have a tool and a strategy to stay out of there, or to heal there, or to know that you can not only eliminate it, but you can really use that same symptom to get more healing in your brain, so that your brain is functioning nicely, right? But if you don't have that, your best tool is avoiding it. I'm not mad at you, but let's look at it. Let's see what's happening. And I want you to look inside and notice that you're avoiding your symptoms, and that's your coping strategy. And we can do that in so many ways. We can do that through meditation. We can do that through yoga. We can do that through all these ways that are really great. I mean, I love those things. They're fabulous. But if you've got anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, like, we need to heal that stuff so that you can be free to do all these other amazing things, and do it from yourself. Not go there and what happens. I have videos on meditation and yoga, and why that can really be painful for people with anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. So go ahead and watch those. You're not crazy. It's not that you don't like meditation. You love meditation. You just can't, because your brain's not functioning well. Okay, so once you deal with that, then all the doors open up. Okay, um, but um, but when you're avoiding the symptoms because you can't get through them, you're also avoiding yourself. And then it's like you have that feeling where you can't connect, right? There's all these wonderful moments going on. There's joy, there's happiness. Other people seem to be happy. You can't like grab it, right? So it's like it just feels like there's this kind of like a limit to how joyful you could be and how happy you can be. And people are just saying, "Oh my gosh, I just love you so much," and you're feeling like, why or really? And you can't just connect and enjoy that and soak it up and feel all the joy in the moment and be able to be present during those precious moments so you can really instead, we're, fighting with our brains in there, but when you can't connect, the reason why you can't connect, and this will solve the whole problem. All of a sudden you're just connecting, right? The reason why you can't connect is because you're not able to connect with yourself anymore. All that connection that comes from the outside is because you're connected inside. You have to connect inside first, and then you can connect out. And we try that backwards all the time. Oh my gosh, we do this. And I'm not mad at you, and I surely have no stones to throw at you. Those stones are gone, right? So, but we try so hard to connect with outside of ourselves, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You have to go within and connect inside. Know who you are, be who you are, enjoy who you are, know who you are. There's so many things blocking us from that, and most of those are symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. Okay, let me tell you, feelings of not good enough, that's traumatic stress. Those are persistent feelings, exaggerated feelings. Look that up in the DSM-5. That's post-traumatic stress. I mean, you probably find that in several of them. I haven't looked recently. But in many of the anxiety, depression, trauma disorders. But like, that's a clue to me that's emotional wounding. Maybe I'm making up my own stuff, my own DSM-5 inside. Don't tell. But I label that as emotional wounding. I want to go find where the emotional wound is. What thing is bleeding? You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. Where's the broken emotional bone, right? It's like we break our arms and our legs sometimes as humans, and we go fix those, but we break an emotion. We sustain a grave emotional wound, and we don't go fix that typically, or we go talk about it. And don't get me started on that. I have other videos. Um, but um, we have to be able to come inside ourselves, and those things will really block us. Shame, the shame, emotional wound. That shame's not supposed to be there. Shame is a sign that there's an emotional wound bleeding. Um, Not good enough. Not doing things right. Messing everything up. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants you. You shouldn't have said that. Making a mistake is dangerous. That's traumatic stress. That's an emotional wound. That's anxiety, right? And that stuff's up in front of you. Many people are sitting here saying, I just have low self-esteem. There's a reason for that. It's not you. It's an emotional wound that you sustained and that hasn't been healed yet. And that's the stuff that blocks you from coming inside and living from your heart, living from yourself. And that's where the magic happens in life, is where you're living from yourself and you're fully present and you're authentically who you are. That stuff feels good. That stuff feels amazing. And it's wonderful when you can do it once and then twice and then 3 times. Your brain really becomes like, oh, wow, did you see that? It can really build some positive addiction to that. Because then it's like, what addiction is, when you find something that helps your brain and your brain likes it and puts it in like a nice regulated state and probably happy and joyful, and your brain starts, like, it says, oh, remember that thing, we should do that thing again. And then it happens once, and then it happens twice, and it happens faster and faster and faster. Pretty soon you don't even know what's happening. Your brain says, oh, there's that thing. Next thing you know, you're doing the behavior, right? But we want that stuff with the positive stuff. Oh, that really great feeling you had, it was because you were being yourself. Oh my gosh, let's do that again. And now it becomes safe to be yourself again. And you can really start to wire that in so that you build this addiction to being yourself. And next thing you know, you don't even know what's happening anymore. You just, oh, you should be yourself. And you're just being yourself. And it happens lightning speed. You don't even notice it. And that's where, like, when stuff hits your heart, That's when you get all feely about it, right? You see your babies and you're just like, oh, it hits your heart, right? If it hits the anxiety, nothing's doing. It hits the anxiety and now you're worried. And oh my gosh, what if they turn out like me? And oh my gosh, she did that thing 3 times. Maybe she's obsessive compulsive too, right? I mean, that stuff's hitting our anxiety and it's spraying out and making problems in our life. And next thing you know, we're living out of fear instead of who we are. We're reacting, we're creating fear instead of joy. This part right here creates all kinds of awesome joy, peace, happiness, goodness. But it's like life comes in and it hits that anxiety and it's not good enough. And it's, you know, it's something bad's going to happen, that sense of doom. Let's get that anxiety out of the way. That's not a way to spend any kind of lifetime. Many of you have been amazing heroes and you've been walking around with that in front of who you are for so long, you don't even know life could be any different than that. You don't even know what it's like to connect. And one of your biggest pains, your greatest sorrows, is the amount of loneliness you feel all the time. And you have so many beautiful things around you and you can't connect. And then you get on the phone with me and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting my life. And I know what that's like for you. And I don't want you to just keep going there. I want you to see the problem is these symptoms and they gotta go so that you can uncover this thing and live from your heart. Live from who you actually are. That's magical. And that you can feel it. You can feel it. You know that that's the truth. You know that that's what you're called to do because you can feel the pulse in there. You can feel the full pulse of desire of you want to go hang out with your kids. And then you go hang out with them and then life hits you with the anxiety and now you're anxious, or you want to go on that date with your husband. You go out on the date and then things happen and it hits your trauma. And now you're feeling worse than when you started. It didn't get in. It didn't get in. And so you're having all these experiences. Nothing's coming in. And you just feel so unfulfilled. And that's trauma, anxiety, depression. Get that stuff out of there so you can be here so that life can come in. And many of us, have, because that's there, or because when we were younger, right, our heart is totally open and things happen and we learn to kind of put armor on there, and that's trauma too. Protection, defenses, right? We can come off with those. We can take those off. We can take those off and live from the heart. And that sounds scary to you. I get it. I understand. But people are doing it. I'm gonna tell you what I told myself, because whenever you face a moment of living without this problem anymore, right? Your survival system is set up to, this is normal. We're not. It's bad, but we're alive. And that's all your survival system cares about. Are you alive or not? And so, but it's like when we look at eliminating the symptoms and living life without these things, it's really scary. And it can be like, I don't know if I know how to do that. And I don't even know. Or like in my case, it was like, I got my diagnosis and like, I know what I'm going to do with that. This is going to be awesome. I can heal. And then it was like, how will I keep my kids alive if I'm not crazy obsessive about it, right? And then, so this was the conversation I had about myself. People keep their kids alive without being crazy, Rachel. It's a thing. I wonder if you could learn how to do that. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Okay. So let me tell you something. You can learn how to live authentically without living under the rule of trauma, anxiety, depression. You can learn how to live without being terrified. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I'm telling you. I mean, terror is a real emotion. You can't get rid of that. I mean, because you need it. But you don't need your life to be stuck by it. You don't need to run from it. You don't need to be blocked with it. You don't need to be to have it closing doors in your life. It's actually there to help you. And once you can restore that relationship with it, the door's open, right? But you don't need to be debilitated by these things any longer. And you don't need to be blocked from your authentic self any longer. And we want the emotions to come into your heart too. We don't want them coming into your ears or staying in your survival center, or I don't know, whatever else we're doing with emotions. We want them to be able to come in, not be afraid of them, and be able to let the body and the mind convert that into power. Emotions are very, very empowering. So, but what happens when you don't live from the heart, one of the saddest things, and this is the deal, is that you teach your children not to live from their hearts either. They're modeling you. It doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you do, who you are. That's who they're becoming. And so when you learn how to live distracted and how to live out there doing all the things not from within, your kids do the same thing. They don't know you're doing it because of anxiety. They just think, oh, that's how you do things, because they can't see the anxiety. I mean, they can feel it, right? But they're learning from you how to live not from the self, not from your heart. And when you live not from your heart, you're living like you're living somebody else's life. And brains hate that. First of all, brains make you do that, okay? And then second of all, they hate it when you do that. So those are brains for you. So you can either help your brain out, or you can let your brain do what it does and just stay stuck swirling, right? Swirling, because it's just, that's what they do. But when you can really work with this, all this energy and help your brains to do the healing work that it wants to do, it can really come into alignment for you and really help you to flow and create a life that matches who you are. And a lot of you know that if you get in there and do that, it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be amazing. And that scares our survival system. And we're back at it, right? More help your brain, right? Help your brain. Because, you have one life to live this lifetime. I don't know how many we get, but this lifetime, you get one of these. And let's do it from the heart. Let's not do it from the anxiety. Let's not do it from trauma. Let's do it from the heart. And I know that may be scary now, but you can build skills for that. That's what life is supposed to be about, like living from the heart. You can build that. And it doesn't have to be cold turkey. It doesn't have to be rough. It doesn't have to be militant. It can be joyful. It can be exciting. And it can be really liberating and flow. Like all of a sudden the blocks are removed, and all of a sudden you just can't help but flow. And that's really, really powerful and amazing. And so, yeah, and so you need this. If you haven't figured that out yet, let me just tell you, you need this. You need to get those symptoms out of the way so you can stop avoiding them and stop avoiding yourself. And I don't think you really want to avoid yourself. I think you really want to connect. And I think you're trying really hard. And let me tell you, let's do it. It's time to do it, time to connect with yourself, because nothing else is going to work. And you're going to go and you're going to build this other life that you're going to hate, and that maybe other people are like, you should be so happy, you should be so grateful, and you're just like, this is not mine. I am showing up a fraction of the piece of myself in this thing. And that's hard to talk about. And then people kind of push you back into it because they're like, you should be grateful, right? And so you're going back in there, and it's like your heart is just, because it's like, I want to do this. I want to live. I want to feel. I want to connect. Nobody can solve that problem for you. Nobody can understand that problem but you. And so really take a stand for yourself and really, really resolve this. Resolve these symptoms so that you can get free. Nobody, like, I want this for you, but I cannot, I cannot, you're not going to get this if I want that for you more than you do. You're not going to heal if somebody else wants you to heal more than you do. Okay, I don't think that's an accurate sentence. I think you know what I'm saying, but let me see if I can get this. I don't know if I can get that sentence properly communicated. Want this, right? Be the person who wants this outcome. Be the person who wants to live from your heart more than anybody else. Like, you know that this is where the key is. It's the heart. Get in there, right? Want it. Go after it. Find it. Okay, let me tell you what I hear that stops people. Okay, and the first one is, I don't know where to start. These stop people from really stop avoiding themselves, right? They're like, it's crazy in there. I don't even know where to start. And that's real. That's real talk. That's a real thing. And let me tell you what, you don't need to know where to start. You need somebody who knows where to start. That's a truth. And own that and make that happen. You need to find somebody who knows where to start. And let me tell you what, if you're sitting with a therapist and they come in and they ask you, what do you want to talk about today? Or okay, well, how do you feel about that? And how are you going to heal that? Like, I'm here because I don't know what I'm doing. Please help me. Right? So you don't want to be going somewhere to flow around. You want to be in a situation where somebody has a systematic, strategic, and successful plan to eliminate these things. All of them. these symptoms that are blocking you from being who you are, your authentic self. That is the mission we're on, is get these symptoms out of the way so you can live and you can be free again, free to feel, free to connect, free to live, free to step into your authentic self, free to step in to the desires of your heart, free to show your kiddos how to live from the heart and teach them that. And so don't let that stop you. Go find somebody who knows how to do it. Take action. The sooner you solve this problem, the faster you get to be yourself. And yourself needs to start showing up in your life like ASAP. So let's hop to that. Go. Number one. Okay, two, the second thing people say to me is that I'm terrified of my emotions. I get it. I get it. If your emotions are incredibly powerful, they are. I can't even say that sentence enough. Like, if you're reading that, if you're seeing that sentence, I want you to see the word powerful in like major capital letters and like incredibly bolded. Emotions are incredibly powerful. And if they can't get through the healing pathways, if your little processor, your little emotion processor, if they can't get through there, it doesn't feel good. It feels very terrible. Right? Imagine pushing a watermelon out of the birth canal, okay? It's like taking something powerful, like a whole human, and pushing it through something. That's not fun. People don't sign up for that. Sometimes they do it one time, they never want to do it again. Sometimes people see it and they're like, that doesn't even look like a good idea. And that can really be what's similar with emotions. And we can see those things and be like, oh my gosh, those people are crazy. Look at them, they're emotioning over there. Or you want to stay away from fear, you want to stay away from shame, you want to stay away from these things. And I get that. And some of that is because you haven't learned how to do it right. You haven't learned how to do it in a way that doesn't hurt, that you haven't learned how to do it in a way that is easy. And there are those ways. There really are. And I think about how I like to do, and I'm not advocating for this. I mean, please do your own choices. But how I like to do trauma work in these emotions is I like to use I'm using a metaphor here, but like how you can like get an epidural and not feel a thing that happens with a baby. I'm not advocating for that. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Staying out of that. But there's ways to have a baby and not feel pain, right? If we can do that there, why can't we do that with trauma work? With dealing with stuff from the past that you don't want to go deal with, or emotions, right? That's what we're working on. Why can't we do that? Why can't we? We can. We absolutely can. That's how I like to do things. I like to make it so that it doesn't hurt. And I'm good at that. So if I'm good at that, you can get good at that. Right? And so maybe there's some parts of it like, yeah, just like having a baby with anesthesia, at some point, I'm really ruining that. I'm coming back, people. I'm coming back to my land over here and emotional stuff. But my point is that these emotions are your power, and I don't want you to spend the rest of your life afraid of them. And because of traumatic events, you've seen people with fear, and you've seen how fear has ruined their life. That makes you afraid of fear. You don't want to go to fear. So you're ignoring your own fears. You've seen people who are angry, and you've seen how anger has abused people and hurt people, and you've seen them ruin their life with anger. And so you don't want to have any anger, and it's not safe for you to be angry, because then whatever that's going to happen. That's not accurate. And these are your emotions. They're part of your navigation system. They're here to help you feel the world. They're part of it's like they're part of your radar. And if you don't tune into that, you're kind of living the world blindly. Like, that's how you know where your boundaries are, your emotional boundaries, your heart boundaries. If you're not in touch with your emotion, I'm telling you, you're probably letting people in your world and cutting your heart right up with their little emotional machetes. You need to, there's so much that your emotions do for you that you have to resolve the relationship with your emotions. It's important. It's part of your whole system functioning so that you can be safe enough to be your authentic self. They are part of your protection team. If you don't connect with them, you're living life unprotected by some of your greatest protectors. And that's only one of the things emotions do for you. I could go on and on and on and on and on. But that's why I'm an emotional wellness coach. And you could just take my word that you need these guys. And yes, I know that they're loud, and I know sometimes they're intense, and I know sometimes they're aggressive and they're bullying. And I know sometimes they're intrusive and they don't really know how to behave well. I get it. Doesn't mean that you can just lock them up and ignore them. That's not going to go well for you. So I understand that, and you got to let's do this. Learn how to work with your emotions in a way that you feel good with, that you feel good about, and that you feel empowered with. And that really helps you restore your relationship with your emotions. Um, some people tell me that they're afraid of their past. They're terrified of their past. And someone said, if I ever have to go back and do that, I'm just not. I'm just not. I'm just going to live like this the rest of my life. Their how horrible their life was and disconnected their life was nothing compared to how terrified they were of the things that had happened to their past, happened to them in their past. And that's I believe them. I believe that that stuff in the past was that horrible, and that they don't want to revisit that. I don't believe them that their future is going to be horrible, because if you add up all the time of life where you're not living from your authentic self and you're living under fear, I mean, if you grab all of that, gosh, that's bad. That's horrible. That's hurt so much. And so, and I honor that in the sense of, like, like, before I met her, she didn't have tools to help herself do this stuff in a way that was going to be less painful and that was going to be effective, right? That's the other thing, is that we don't want to do stuff that's not going to work. We want to do stuff and have the confidence or the courage or the trust that this is actually going to work this time, and I'm not going to go under. And so, and what I would tell you is that there's so many ways to process the past and help your brain heal from the past without having to look at it directly, without having to just dump it out on you and in agony and excruciating pain. It doesn't have to be like that. And really, if you've got that kind of trauma going on, find somebody who's really specializes in dealing with that. Don't just let some Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Susan, or Shelly, get in there and do this stuff. You want somebody who's good, because if you're going to go in there, you're going to just have to pull up all your courage and trust. And I don't want that harmed for you. I want that to be good. So really have high standards. If you're terrified, listen to yourself and get what you need. Hopefully get what you need the first time, so you don't have to do this 10 times, right? I mean, anyway, but yeah, don't let your fear of the past terrify you. I have worked with people over and over again to get healing without looking at their past directly. Okay, number one. Number two, if you're not ready to go to your past, you're not ready to go to your past. You don't have to go to your past to do a lot of healing work. You can do the healing work you need to do. By the time you're done with this, by this time you're like, watch me whip, like you're over here in your emotions, like doing all this stuff. And then you say, hey, Rachel, let's do that other thing. And I say, are you ready? Really? You're like, yeah. My clients usually will pull me into them. They're like, let's go. Sometimes I'll see, like, we'll do some brain tricks to see if they're ready. But a lot of times it's like, no. The brain says no, it says no. And we need to be respectful of the brain. If your brain says no, no, there's totally so many ways else to heal. We don't need to force it to do things. It's there to keep you safe. I know. Um, so, and yeah. So anyway, um, the fourth thing is that what people tell me why they keep avoiding is that they've tried so many things already. And what I would say, if you've tried so many things already, congratulations. Like, you are amazing, and pat yourself on the back. And it doesn't mean that you've lost. It means that what you have, you know a lot of things that don't work. And that's actually part of mastery. Self mastery is, what doesn't work. But I'll tell you what I find is that all the things that you've tried, when you get the help the brain move through the healing pathways, its own healing pathways, what happens in there is that I got distracted. Let me see. I actually got distracted by my own thirst, and I have no water. I'm going to get some, but that was at least enough. Okay. What happens? Okay. So what happens here is that when you've tried so many things, usually a lot, when I get into people's inner worlds that have tried lots of things, the things that they've done have really created some order, and it's helped them build some skills, and those skills are very important for the healing process. So what I find is that people that have already done so many things, that when we start adding this one piece to it, everything starts moving really, really, really quickly. And because there's so much that's built, we just needed one piece of this stuff. We needed to open up the healing pathways and get things moving. And so if you've done all that stuff, it's not time to quit. It's just not. It's actually time to celebrate that, and like, let's get this extra piece in there and get things moving, because you're this close, right? There's that saying like that you don't want to quit 3 feet from gold. And I'll tell you that in if you've already done so much stuff, you're 3 feet from gold. Do not stop. It's not time to stop. And that our brains can say, oh, we've tried everything, nothing's going to work, yes, okay, all that stuff may be true, but I'm telling you, if you want an expert opinion, do not quit. You are so close. Really help the brain heal, right? And if you're somebody who hasn't done anything, you know, that was a little bit more of what I came into this with. I found the interventions I worked with like so quickly after I got my diagnosis that I didn't even have time to try anything else. And this woman handed me this intervention. She was like, "Try this; it'll change your life." And I was like, But she had already done so many amazing things in my life that I was like, "I better do this." So I went and tried it, and it was like it started healing. And then I started understanding it, and I started getting more training and more training and more training and more training. And then it was just movement, right? And so if you haven't done anything in your inner world, fine, no big deal. You stand at the place where you can just really hit this and quit this right now and do that. Do that. And in this stuff, like, really prioritize this, prioritize it, because every day that you're not living from your authentic self, ugh, I don't even know what the sentence comes after that. Look in your own life. What happens when you're not living from your authentic self? What if you're looking for, the trauma that makes you please other people? And so you're living out of people pleasing, right? And your life is built around people pleasing. Ugh, how much does that hurt? Or you're terrified of being as amazing as you are. And so you're sabotaging all the time, right? And so you're living over here where your standards are supposed to be, instead of actually authentically where you're actually supposed to be. That's a painful, painful life. And this is not something we want to pass around. This is not something we want to bring to our romance. This is not something we want to bring. So, so really, this whole thing we're talking about, are you avoiding your symptoms of anxiety or yourself? And the thing is, I don't think anybody's really trying to avoid themselves. I think we're really trying to avoid the anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, but it ultimately keeps us from avoiding ourselves. And so I encourage you, do it. Do whatever you got to do to get back into your heart, and really eliminate those symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. Brains do that. I can't say that enough. Okay, brains do that, and they do it quickly. And so really, I want to invite you, if this is something that you want to do and you are ready to get started now, because you're like, let's do this. If you feel that pulse of desire within you, I invite you to go ahead and book a call with me. If this, and not only that desire, let's do this now, but if you're also in the place where you're like, hey, Rachel, can you help me? Let's take a look. Let's see. Go ahead and grab a spot on my calendar by going to rachelmcleod.com/call. And I'll spend an hour with you to take a look at what you're struggling with, what's not working, what's working, and really where you want to go. Okay, if I can help you with that, I'll be honest with you, and we'll have an honest conversation about this. But really, ultimately, it's about you getting to your dream. So I will steer you wherever you need to go. And if that's with me, we'll talk about that, right? So, so that's my invitation to you. If this is something that you're ready for and you want to dive head in, you know, my specialty is helping women eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress in 2 to 6 months instead of 2 to 6 years. And that's because that's what I wanted. And if I could go back and save myself all that time, I would have. And so I really built what I do around me and people like me. And then there's so many other ways, right? And so if that's what you're interested in, that's what you want to do, go ahead and book yourself, grab a spot on my calendar, and we'll have that conversation. And I really will call you if you're so that's it from me. And but are there any questions? I'm going to go ahead, if you have any questions about what I wrote, what I talked about, what I wrote, go ahead and put those now. I'm going to put my link in here to stall a little bit because I know you guys are a little bit behind me in time. And while we're here, I also included in this, in the link above, probably, um, I included a link to my webinar where I really get into more details about how to help your brain heal and how to really eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, even though that's not in the title, in 2 to 6 months. And so if you're really interested in that and you want more information about that, go ahead and click that link at the top. That will take you to a webinar that I do, and where I really pull back the curtain and talk about those 5 steps and really do that so that you get more understanding with that, okay, and you get more clarity. And so, but if you're in a place where you've been watching me for a while, especially, and you're like, let's do this, it's time, go ahead and grab that spot on my calendar. So I'm not seeing any questions, and so I'm gonna go ahead and go. But it was wonderful talking with you all. Bye, Sandy, and bye, everyone else. I'll see you another time this week. Take care.